Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Prod Rants video. Today I want to be ranting about Steam Next Fest. It ended a little while ago, and I still have like 70 or more demos to play from both this Next Fest and the previous one. But I just want to talk about some from this most recent one that I really enjoyed and I want to talk about. So we're going to start with technically 5 honorable mentions, but just 3 because 3 of the games are lumped together. First one is Surf's Up. It's essentially just a standalone surf game mode from Counter-Strike. It's a mode I loved back in CSGO that I feel is kind of dying due to the state of CS2's community support. Stuff like there aren't very good server mods / plugins yet for Source 2, and the CS2 community server browser is just an absolute fucking mess. But it saves the CS surf community. It has a bunch of the same maps, and it's just a standalone way to play that, so thumbs up for that game. I really enjoyed it. The next one is going to be one from last Next Fest, but the demo still exists and the game doesn't have a release date, and that is Megabonk. It is a 3D Vampire Survivors-like with fun meme characters. You've got characters like Giga Chad, who has like an aura of damage around him, kind of similar to, I believe, Garlic in Vampire Survivors. And then the other one they have that's very fun to me is the skeleton riding a skateboard, whose damage is based on his movement speed. Very fun characters. Each of them have a, I believe there's like 3 or 4 more characters. Each of them have a fun passive that you can build to be super strong. The game itself is very easy to break and has a ton of content for a demo. I think I've played it for like at least 12 hours at this point, and I haven't even unlocked everything yet. And then the last honorable mention is like job simulator games, not like, oh, TCG shop owner simulator, but I'm talking like Power Wash simulator, like games that are relaxing and satisfying. And I've got 3 of those for you. I've got Sunken Engine, which is like a occult / Lovecraftian horror boat cleaning sim. I think there's more to it based on the trailer, but I haven't played it. But I just know that just from the looks of the trailer, it gives me that Power Wash simulator vibe. Same with Leaf Blower Co. It's just a game where you blow leaves into trash bins. I watched Smitty play it. Seems like a lot of fun. I added it to my wish list immediately, but I'm not going to play the demo because I already saw all the content of the demo on the Smitty video. And then the last one in this genre is... So now getting to the actual list, there were 2 games that really jumped out at me that made me want to make this video, and the number 1 was The Sunken City. It's a PlayStation 1 style, like art style, first-person dungeon crawler, and it takes about 4 hours. The demo itself is 4 hours long and covers like 5 different like playable areas, I think even 6, along with you have to fight like 4 or 5 bosses. It's a very cool game. At first I played it and I didn't really enjoy the combat or the UI, but I came back to it after a day because something about it was just like telling me to come back and play it. I wasn't really sure why, but I read some of the discussions after I stopped playing it the first time, and just a lot of the discussions were people just absolutely gushing about how much they loved the demo and all the like depth and how there was so many like little secrets you could find, and so I had to give it another try. And I have to say I was proven wrong. After my second playthrough, I was sitting there playing the game for like 5 hours, just trying to find all the little secrets, make sure I explored every little nook and cranny of the maps. I was enthralled by the map design and all the secrets. A lot of people's only complaint about the demo was that the maps were too big. I think that would only be a problem if you had to backtrack more than you do. And they even have like a little like hub world that you discover after like the 3rd playable area that allows you to go back to previous areas. So it even gives you like a shortcut if you do have to end up backtracking. But for the most part, you don't. So 100% recommend this game. And I had a complaint with the combat system. It gets better the more you play with it. The first enemies are kind of a lot more annoying than you think, and they enemies get both more interesting and like easier to fight quickly as you play. And then the number 2 game, which you can't even play the demo for anymore because the full game released like before Next Fest was even over, which was Cast and Chill. It's a incremental pixel art fishing game. It took about 2 hours to 100% the demo, and the full game takes about 15 hours to like fully complete, not 100%. I have like one more achievement I have to do, and that one more achievement will probably take me another like hour or 2. But this was probably the best game that I played in Next Fest. The art, the pixel art is amazing. There's a ton of little like hidden Easter eggs. The entire thing is like background art. You're essentially just like on a boat moving left and right in a beautiful like nature drawn pixel art. It's amazing. And there's little like secrets in the background and stuff, and then you're just fishing. And there's about 5 fish per area, and there's like 15 different maps in the full game. So you get a lot more maps. You get, I believe there was like 20 fish in the demo. They had more fish per area. And then in the full game, there's about 50 fish, I believe. My favorite part about the game, other than the art, which was amazing, is that each fish fight back in a somewhat like realistic manner. Like, I love watching nature videos and like fishing videos, and something I learned while watching like a guy in Australia fish for his meal while he's camping on an island is that fish fight back different ways. So like you can kind of tell what fish you have on the line depending on how they fight, which is really cool because I got to experience that in the game, even though the game is like not like realistic in that sense. The fish still fight realistically, which I think is really cool. Another cool aspect about it, the shopkeep and how like progression works in the game is like really balanced. Like usually incremental games, they get like slower as you continue. This game, it doesn't really feel like that. Like at the very end, when you're trying to unlock like the very last area, it kind of tends to be slow. But once you unlock that last area, you get like all of those fish in that area are worth a lot more. So you never are like grinding an area passively to get money. And even if you are, there's an idle mode where you can just set up your rod, which is what you do in the game. You set up your rod with the correct like bobbers and correct strength of rod to catch certain fish. So you can just kind of go, all right, I want to go to this map to catch walleye. Okay, this is the bobber I need, and this is the size of a rod I need to catch walleye. All right, set that up, go to idle mode, and I can just go and play something else for like, 40 minutes or something, and then I come back and I have enough money to just continue, which I think is really cool. All right, third game is called Waltz and Jam. It's a casual action adventure game. I compared it to like a 2.5D Zelda game and mixed with Mario games, like 3D Mario games. It's got Legend of Zelda combat with like Mario map design, and kind of has that like Paper Mario like character writing, which I think is really fun. Length of the demo is about 2 hours. I feel like it's a casual game. It really drew me in with its art style and like how the characters are drawn. It's more of like it's weird because it's simultaneously a casual and like very like kid friendly game. It feels very family friendly in how like the game is, but it's about like a character that just died and you're like a ghost and you're trying to like make your way to a like city, and you're like, it's very fun. I'm not entirely sure the story of it yet because the story isn't really talked about in the demo that much. You kind of are just introduced to a main area, introduced to like a final goal, and the demo ends on a cliffhanger with the second area boss. You don't get to fight the second area boss, and the first area boss was kind of disappointing. I will say the combat in the game, while I said it was Legend of Zelda-esque, is kind of very simple, but everything else about the game is amazing. It's just so nice, and the character writing's amazing. The like, not even just the puzzles, but just like the world and the map design is great. I would honestly give it a try after the first boss. Don't drop it before you complete the demo, I'll say that. The first area is a bit slower than the second area, but the frog area is so fun. All right, fourth game is The Elementalist. This is a demo that came out last Next Fest, or maybe even 2 Next Fests ago, and I was excited because they posted that they would have a new demo for this Next Fest. It is a top-down action-adventure game in the style of 2D Zelda games. You'll find out from this list, I love 2D Zelda games, I love puzzle games. Length of the demo is about 3 hours, but I also had played a previous demo that like half of the content of this demo was just the previous demo, so it might take longer for you. I said roughly 3 hours because the total hours I had on this demo was like 6, so I just like halved what I currently had on the demo based on having played it twice. So I was a bit disappointed to find out that this demo is essentially just the previous Next Fest demo, but with a prologue slapped on top of, or on the front of it. However, this is representative of the beginning of the actual game and the first dungeon, and that progress from the demo will transfer to the actual game, which I think is insane. Most demos, and it's a gripe I have with demos because I love playing demos, is that a lot of the times that progress doesn't transfer to the main game, especially in games where especially in like puzzle games. Puzzle games are not fun to have to like replay like 15 levels that you played in a demo, because it's not entertaining, it's not fun, and it just feels like a chore, and especially because a lot of those levels are like the first levels of the game. So you have to essentially redo the tutorial and redo the like 10 levels after the tutorial after buying a game, even though you already played those. So that's a big plus for me, that the Elementalist lets the progress from the demo transfer to the actual game. And previously, when you beat the first dungeon, that was just it, the demo was over. Now they let you explore the world a little bit. You get to like get sneak peeks into some of the areas that will be there in the actual game. Like you get access to like a desert area and like the academy and like a snow area, I think. All that you didn't get to have access to before. You don't get to like really go that far into them, but you get little sneak peeks, which I think are really fun. And it like gave me something to do after I was like, oh, now I'm done with the game. Or like, oh, I'm done with the dungeon that I had already beaten before. Now what? So that's a big plus. And if you haven't played it yet, the first dungeon is absolutely amazing. If you love like 2D Zelda games, I will specify that. But the like concept of the game that separates it from other Zelda games is that you are a like elemental like druid type character, and by the end of the game you'll have like control over like I think like 8 different elements that do like different things in the world and in combat. Seems very fun. All right, 5th game is actually a game I haven't played, because it's one of those games where it's like, it's just a puzzle game, it's very short, and if I play the demo, I'm going to have to replay those like puzzles in the full game. But it's the 3rd game in a series, so I've already played the first 2 games, so I know I'll enjoy the 3rd, and that is Monument Valley 3. It is a geometric puzzle game, originally on mobile. I believe the 3rd game is on mobile, but you apparently need like a Netflix subscription. I'm not gonna get into that very much, but it was a franchise that I played on my phone almost a decade ago at this point that blew my mind when I first played them. And then they eventually got ported to Steam, the 1st and the 2nd game, and the 3rd game came out in like 2024 on mobile, and it's now being ported to PC. It's not out yet. Can't wait for it to come out. If you play the demo and can't wait for the full game to release, you can just play it on mobile. The other 2 games you can play either the Netflix version or the original, at least on Android. Like if you have a Netflix subscription and you have an Android, you can play like all 3 games I think for free. So please go do that, or support the devs and buy it when it gets ported to Steam. But 100% recommend. Those games are beautiful. The puzzles are not like super complicated, but you still have to like think. It's just great. It's also like a perspective based game. Like it's geometric and perspective puzzles. All right, game number 6. I played this for about 15 minutes while my internet was out, and I had to stop playing the demo because I was so excited that I didn't want to like spoil anything for it when the full game comes out. I had to wishlist it and just wait. And that is called Gecko Gods. It's a third-person action-adventure puzzle platformer game. where you are a gecko, and there's little like collectibles around the map which are just bugs. Like you have to catch a dragonfly and it goes like new insect added to collection. It's very fun. I stopped once I got to the option to choose from 3 trials. It essentially was the tutorial, and then it brought you to like an open-ish world area where you got to choose between 3 different starting points. I assume you have to complete all 3 to continue, but you get to choose which one, so I think that's very fun. Other than that, I just loved the aesthetic of the game. The art is amazing. I did find out from reading the discussions about the game that the game was supposed to have come out about a year ago, so I will say take this one with a grain of salt, and if you want, play the demo and just like keep the demo, because the game may not come out when it says. I think it says it's slated for a Q3 release in 2025, but you know, don't get your hopes up for that, but I would definitely say this game is worth it. Alright, game number 7, Flickshot Rogue. The 3rd genre you will see on this is roguelikes. My favorite game of all time is Binding of Isaac, so there is definitely a love for the genre in me. So Flickshot Rogue is a turn-based roguelike or roguelite. I don't think the definition matters. With the physics of Rack and Slay, the like pool roguelike, but with a different gameplay loop where you're essentially like shooting a hero character as like a cue ball at enemy balls, but you want your character to either hit them to do damage or be near them to do damage. At least those are the 2 characters that you get in your first run. It's got great replayability, so I'm not going to give it a length because I think you could play it almost as much as you want, but I felt that the upgrades, the ability upgrades, felt very strong but in a fun way, and led to my playstyle changing throughout the run in like a way that I felt very natural, and it let me like, you get to choose between like 3 upgrades, so you get to kind of choose like, oh, do I want my gameplay to change that drastically to be using a complete like this ability, or would I rather have this ability that lets me play in the same fashion I was already doing. Like, I didn't like the barbarian-esque character all that much, and then I got an upgrade for him that I thought was really cool, and then I was using him more than the other character for the majority of the run. So I think that's very cool. I felt that some of the fights felt very long. Like you would be in like a normal or like a quote-unquote hard fight on the map, and you'd have like 3 to like 5 waves of enemies just for that one space. So it felt like fights or like certain like map objectives, especially because like the shops and a lot of the like more, you know, like roguelike like event spaces or shop spaces, those spaces ended in like seconds, but then the combat spaces would take like 5+ minutes per stage, and then the boss stage would take like a little bit longer too. After complaining about that, I also think the game would benefit from a little bit of a better UI that shows off what things are doing the damage. But I still think the game has a lot of potential, and I think the ability upgrades themselves being a way to like define an entire playthrough is a lot of fun. And I hope that all of the abilities are as strong as the ones that were in the demo, because I think then it adds more choice of how you want to play rather than like, oh, I need to take this one because this one's strong. Kind of similar in like Binding of Isaac, where you need, a lot of the times you don't feel like you need to take a certain item over another one other than preference. All right, number 8, Abyssus. It is a co-op FPS roguelike dungeon crawler. Me and my friend played it for about 2 hours. We spent like 15 minutes exploring the hub area, which I think is a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool little like movement opportunities in there because you get a double jump and a dash. And there's a lot of little secrets around the hub area as well, which I think was a lot of fun to find. I think we found them all. I'm not 100% sure. My only complaint was that I could not reconnect when I got disconnected in a run. I'm assuming that will be there in the full game, but it just kind of sucks that in the demo I couldn't like experience that fight because my internet dropped. I mainly chose this game because in the trailer they show like weapon customization. That's in the game a little bit, but there's a ton that is locked behind the full game, but also locked behind like challenges within the game. I think that's perfectly fine and actually a great way to do it, because I'd rather have to, like, similar to like Binding of Isaac, kind of build up towards having all these like different options with things that are actually little, like, they give me a reason to play a certain way. Like when you're playing the Binding of Isaac, you usually have to play a character and go to a certain boss, but there are still things like, oh, use like, or like consume, gulp 5 trinkets in a run, I think is one, where you then unlock marbles as an item. It's like I had to go out of my way to figure out how to do that, which I think is like a really cool little like challenge. It makes you think about the game in a different way in order to unlock an item that makes that style of play a little easier. So it like gives you the benefit of, it like teaches you the benefit of playing that way, and then gives you a way to be able to do that more often, which I think is really cool. And there's a bunch of like cosmetics that are also locked behind challenges rather than like microtransactions, which is a huge plus. So give that one a try. I would heavily suggest playing it with a friend or 2. I think it's at least 3 person. I'm not sure about 4. Demo number 9, Gemporium. So this game, I have to full transparency, I only played this game for like 5 minutes. I basically played the tutorial and was like, this game gives me the vibe of a game that I will play. It is a mining and time management game. I don't know the length of the demo. I played until I was confident that the vibe I got from the trailer was true, but it reminds me of the underground mining mini game in the Gen 4 Pokemon games. And that was like pretty much all I needed to see to like the game. It also has a shopkeep aspect of the game. That's the time management. And it seems similar but simpler to other shopkeep games, which I personally enjoy. Because something that I didn't enjoy with a lot of the shopkeep games is that the main gameplay is the shopkeeping, whereas I prefer the rest of the gameplay. So it reminds me a lot of Potion Craft Alchemist Simulator, where the main gameplay is like making the potions, and then you're given a prompt by a customer when you go to the shopkeep phase, and you try and give them an item that fulfills that prompt, rather than like haggling or trying to make items specifically for someone else's request. You can still do that in Potion Craft, but it's more of like their problem would be solved by an invisibility potion. I have one, I'll give them that, and then they'll pay you based on whether or not that satisfied the prompt, which I think is a really cool idea. And it seems similar in this game. They're like, oh, I want an amethyst, but I don't want it to have like any amber. I'm not sure what they say, like amethyst checkmark amber X. So I assume they're like, oh, you know, I want a gemstone that's like similar to an amethyst, but don't give me an amber. Something like that. All right, and then the last demo is Wish Me Well. It is a roguelite twin stick shooter dungeon crawler. I gave this the length of replayable, and I'm a big hater of twin stick shooters. I feel like the shooting design of Binding of Isaac is like vastly superior, especially coming from someone who plays on PC. Twin stick shooters don't really work when you're on a mouse and keyboard. I mean, they do, but like it just kind of feels weird. And this is the closest game that I have ever felt to, like, this is the game that has felt closest to Binding of Isaac that I have ever played that doesn't have the same shooting mechanics. Like, it's twin stick shooter, whereas Isaac only has items that can give you a twin stick shooter style attack. So in this game, you have multiple attacks with slots for upgrading that allow for synergies and combos. So the build of that I got was where shooting my first attack would automatically proc my second attack to fire, and my first attack was a single projectile, and my second attack was a burst of 3 projectiles in like a fan shape. The combo was my first shot would automatically trigger my second shot, but if my first shot hit an enemy, it would automatically shoot my second attack again. And if any of my projectiles from my second attack hit an enemy, they would split an additional time, like an additional 3 times. which was a lot of fun. I would say my only gripe with the game is that there isn't a way to like definitively tell when you're taking damage, which is something that I was not very fond of. But other than that, the game feels amazing. You also get to like choose where the synergies and combos go. So like I could have made it so that when my second attack hits, it procs it like a third attack again, instead of making it so that my first attack procced my second attack multiple times. So it seems like it's like fully customizable. You get to choose where the synergies go, which I think is really cool. That's something Isaac doesn't really do. Like if you have a negative synergy, you just have to know that that's a negative synergy, like Ipecac Brimstone. You just need to know that those things are negative combos and not pick them up. Whereas in this, if you find something and realize it's a negative combo, you can just take that synergy off and put it into your backpack and maybe find a different way to use it. But I haven't seen anything that would negatively impact your characters, so I'm not sure if those negative synergies are even in the game. But like if something works or synergizes in a way that you don't like, you can remove it. It's not like, oh, you put this attached to attack 2, it's locked there now. Not the case. And it will tell you if the ability that you are trying to equip to an attack doesn't work, which I think is a really cool thing. It lets you have like full customizability and like full control in how your attacks work. 100% recommend. But that's it. That's my like 15 demos that I've played this next fest. I've got another 70 to go through, so I might make another list, but these were the ones that like immediately jumped out to me, both upon seeing the trailer and upon playing them. So a lot of these games were like the games that I was really excited to play from Next Fest. The rest were games that I was like iffy about adding to the wish list immediately and wanted to play the demo to make sure they were good. But yeah, if you guys have any suggestions or any games from Next Fest that you really enjoyed, or any games that are going to be in the summer sale, please let me know. But anyway, thanks for watching.
Well, the hell with it. This is something new for the underground.